In our headlines on this Wednesday afternoon, September 6th. President Yoon Suk-yeol seeks active and broader cooperation with the Association of Southeast Asian Nations in a summit today over in Jakarta amid concerns over security and supply chains. Meanwhile, the White House warns of a price to pay by North Korea in the international community if the regime moves ahead with an arms for food agreement with Russia in support of the latter's war in Ukraine. And at the National Assembly, lawmakers opened day 2 of the interpellation of the Yoon administration, with the focus today on diplomacy and defense amid brewing geopolitical uncertainties. We begin today over in Jakarta, where President Yoon Suk-yeol is engaging with his counterparts in the Asean to promote peace and prosperity within the Indo-Pacific amid rampant challenges to rules-based international order. Our senior correspondent Oh Soo-young, who is part of the Presidential Press Corps, files this report.
President Yoon Suk-yeol will seek deeper engagement with the Association of Southeast Asian Nations in line with the pledges he made with the United States and Japan at their Camp David trilateral meeting last month. Attending the annual summit for the second consecutive year, Yoon on Wednesday held a bilateral dialogue with the 10-member bloc and outlined ways to put into action his Korea-ASEAN Solidarity Initiative, which pursues freedom, peace and prosperity in the region. First addressing security issues amid North Korea's missile and nuclear threat, territorial disputes and other regional tensions. He proposed strengthening cooperation in the defence industry with greater dialogue, cybersecurity and transnational crimes along with maritime security. Highlighting the dire need to respond to non-traditional security issues such as climate change and public health, the South Korean leader reaffirmed support for the $19 million Korean-ASEAN Methane Action Initiative to bolster the regional bloc's climate response and build up its capacity to produce vaccines and develop treatments for infectious diseases. The meeting in Jakarta marks Yoon's first multilateral conference since the Camp David summit last month, where the leader agreed with his US and Japanese counterparts to coordinate their engagement and development assistance to ASEAN and other Indo-Pacific players.
지난 8월 캠프 데이비드 정상회의를 계기로 한미일 협력의 새로운 시대가 열렸습니다. 한미일 3국은 아세안이 주도하는 지역 구조에 대한 전적인 지지를 바탕으로 각국의 인태 전략을 조율하고 신규 협력 분야를 발굴해 나아가기로 했습니다. 이를 위해 연례 한미일 인도-태평양 대화를 발족하고 아세안과 태평양 도서국의 해양 안보 역량을 지원하는 한미일 해양 안보 협력 프레임워크를 새롭게 출범시켰습니다.
Yoon also presented ways to strengthen economic links with the ASEAN, Korea's second-largest export market, with a flagship program to promote collaborations between Korean and ASEAN youth on digital technologies and artificial intelligence. He will later in the day attend an AI festa for the future generation to kickstart such efforts. Seoul will also continue its contribution to the sustainable development of Mekong countries. On that note, the South Korean leader further highlighted Seoul's potential to share its own development experience with many maritime countries, including in the ASEAN, through the 2030 World Expo, which Korea is hoping to host in Busan City. The president looks to further discuss regional cooperation at the ASEAN Plus 3 summit with Japan and China on Wednesday and at the East Asia summit on Thursday. While Beijing will be represented by Premier Li Chang instead of President Xi Jinping, the South Korean leader hopes to host a trilateral summit along with Tokyo within the year. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News, Jakarta.
Now, Indonesia, for its part, is emerging as an essential economic partner for South Korea, as is India. And both Jakarta and New Delhi mark 5 decades of diplomatic ties with Seoul this year. So given this occasion, my colleague Shin Ha-young covers the prospects of broader market endeavors.
Indonesia and India, where President Yoon Suk-yeol is traveling to for the ASEAN and G20 summits, have emerged as prominent markets amid the rapidly changing global economic landscape. According to the Korea International Trade Association, although the share of South Korea's exports to the two countries is not large, shipments to India rose by more than 20% year-on-year in 2022, while those to Indonesia recorded an increase of 18.6%. India, with a population of over 1.4 billion as of this year, is considered an attractive place for investment and as a production base. In particular, the Make in India initiative by the Indian government, which aims to make the country a manufacturing hub, has led global automotive companies to establish production facilities there. According to South Korea's trade investment promotion agency KOTRA, India is the world's fourth largest global manufacturing hub for vehicles. Both Hyundai Motor and Kia have successfully entered the Indian market through local investments. In 2021, in terms of sales volume in India's passenger car market, Hyundai ranked second with a share of 17%, while Kia came in fourth. Indonesia, on the other hand, is emerging as an economic partner in terms of supply chains and economic security, especially in the electric vehicle and battery sectors. The government and state-owned firms are working on building supply chains, starting with the mining of nickel, a key material for EV batteries, to the production and distribution of batteries. With India and Indonesia both marking their 50th anniversary of diplomatic ties with South Korea this year, economic cooperation is expected to expand in various areas. KOTRA sees EVs and renewable energy as promising areas of demand for both Seoul and New Delhi. The Indian content market, which is expected to reach $31 billion by next year, is also a field that South Korea can focus on. With Indonesia, electric vehicles, battery supply chains, as well as its smart city projects are areas that South Korea can look forward to for further cooperation. 신하영, Arirang News.
Poland is currently hosting one of Europe's largest defense trade shows, and South Korean military technology is taking center stage. Our defense correspondent Choi Min-jung tells us how.
The 31st International Defence Industry Exhibition kicked off in Poland on Tuesday. For the second time, South Korea is participating in Europe's third largest defense trade show as the lead nation. A total of 30 domestic companies are taking part in the exhibition this year, including Korea Aerospace Industries, or KAI, Hyundai Rotem, and Hanwha Aerospace. Polish President Andrzej Duda visited the Korean exhibition hall and expressed great interest in Korean-made weapon systems. KAI displayed models of the F-A-50 light fighter deployed in the Polish military, as well as the KF-21 multi-purpose fighter, which is reportedly set to begin its initial production phase next year.
Because the KF-21 is in the development stage, we have not been putting much effort into its promotion so far. I believe that this exhibition has become an opportunity for strategic promotion not only in Poland, but also in Europe and the entire world.
KAI further solidified its position in the Polish market by signing an MOU with the state-owned defense firm Polish Armaments Group. This is expected to pave the way for strengthening marketing activities for Korean weapons in other parts of Europe as well. Visitors were also drawn to Hyundai Rotem's K2 tank on display outdoors in between a German Leopard and an American Abrams tank. The South Korean tank is currently being used by the Polish Army.
I can feel a huge improvement to the K2 compared to the T-72 tank I used to drive. I feel an incomparable difference in the propulsion and the performance of the tank. Riding the K2 is fun.
South Korea's unique role in the exhibition is seen as a natural consequence of Poland's large-scale purchase of military equipment from South Korea in 2022. Last year, the two countries signed a landmark defense deal worth a total of $12.4 billion. Choi Min-jung, Arirang News.
The Biden administration says North Korea will face consequences within the international community should it choose to condone Russia's invasion of Ukraine by sealing an arms deal with the Kremlin. Our Lee Seung-jae has the latest.
North Korea will pay a price if it provides weapons to Russia. That warning was issued by U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan on Tuesday during a press briefing at the White House.
Providing weapons to Russia for use on the battlefield to attack grain silos and the heating infrastructure of major cities as we head into winter, to try to conquer territory that belongs to another sovereign nation, this is not going to reflect well on North Korea, and they will pay a price for this in the international community.
However, Sullivan said that there were no indications yet that Pyongyang has provided large amounts of weapons to Moscow, but negotiations on the matter are actively advancing. The latest stern warning from the U.S. comes as North Korean leader Kim Jong-un is reportedly set to visit Russia to meet with Russian President Vladimir Putin to discuss a possible arms deal. Russia, however, slammed both South Korea and the U.S. for their military cooperation, saying that it goes against the idea of denuclearizing the Korean peninsula. Earlier this month, during the first session of the Preparatory Committee for the 2026 Review Conference of the Parties to the Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons, a Russian representative criticized the fact that many countries have punished North Korea for violating the NPT, while the UN Security Council adopted several resolutions on the denuclearization of the Korean peninsula. However, Russia also noted that the U.S. sent a nuclear-armed submarine to South Korea in July. The representative further criticized the alliance between the two countries, saying that both Seoul and Washington are responsible for the tensions created on the peninsula. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Lawmakers here have launched their interpellation of government officials this week, and on day one, back on Tuesday, Seoul's response to Tokyo's release of radioactive wastewater was brought under scrutiny. Our National Assembly correspondent Lee Si-hoo reports.
The hot topic of Tuesday's government question and answer session was the discharge of wastewater from the crippled Fukushima nuclear power plant. Representatives from the main opposition Democratic Party once again asked the government where it stands regarding the issue.
Japan began releasing nuclear wastewater from the Fukushima nuclear power plant, despite concerns raised by neighboring countries, among others. Is the South Korean government for or against the discharge?
I believe you are surely aware of the government's stance. We do not oppose the discharge if it's done in a way that meets the standards. This thought is the same as that of the past Moon Jae-in administration.
Representatives from the People Power Party decried the DP's stance on the matter, saying that the government and the party will protect South Korea from fake news and horror stories. The PPP also stressed the importance of pushing for one of the Yoon administration's goals, the launch of the Korea Aerospace Administration.
It's an important matter for the future of our country. The bill has to be passed in September in order to establish the administration within this year, so we can become the 7th space power.
On Wednesday, questions will focus on diplomacy and security. Other issues scheduled to be discussed this week are the economy and education. Lee Si-hoo, Arirang News.
Also, the ruling People Power Party and the government are expanding the size and scope of the nation's COVID-19 vaccine side effect compensation. They're offering up to 30 million won, or some $22,000, to families whose loved ones died within 90 days of vaccination and whose cause of death has not been confirmed by autopsy. At present, up to 10 million won is being offered to families of those who died within 42 days. Meanwhile, more research on vaccine safety will be conducted, while more support for medical equipment will also be allocated. A growing number of people here are choosing to tie the knot later. An annual report by Seoul's Family Ministry on this Wednesday shows the average age of first marriages last year was 33.7 for men and 31.3 for women. Now, these latest findings are up 0.3 years for men and 0.2 years for women compared to 2021. They are also the highest since officials began compiling relevant data back in 1990. Also, 148,000 couples got married for the first time in 2022, a drop of 0.6% on year. The popularity of K-pop merchandise is expanding well beyond the fan base of the artists to include the trendy young public. Our Chung Won-ju explains.
A long line formed in front of the K-pop girl group New Jeans pop-up store even before opening time. People of various ages and nationalities, from teenagers to people in their 30s and foreigners, had been waiting since dawn to enter the store as soon as it opened.
I think my friends know about this too because it was promoted well on social media using the Y2K trend. I came around 6 in the morning and waited to enter.
Loyal fans and the general public alike buy a collection of keychains, stickers, t-shirts, bags, and more.
These days, Y2K, denim, and leather are in fashion, and these are well incorporated. I think many in their 20s these days like new jeans. Their songs are really good.
Coffee brand Starbucks recently collaborated with girl group Blackpink to release products such as drinks, cakes, and mugs. In particular, the Blackpink collaboration tumbler sold out in stores nationwide within a week of release, and their prices tripled on limited edition sales trading sites. The reason for the idol merchandise frenzy lies in the consumption tendencies of Generation Z, who seek limited editions and like to express their individuality. They consider consumption as a form of entertainment by attaching dolls representing their favorite K-pop artists to their bag or sharing their special experiences at pop-up stores on social media. The range of products has also expanded beyond simply consuming the artist's image to incorporating both aesthetics and practicality to stimulate the desire for ownership of products that appeal to collectors. As the idol IP business expands beyond the fandom-focused market to reach the general public, it's anticipated that the scale of the merchandise industry will grow even larger in tandem with the growth of K-pop. 정은주, Arirang News.
In other news, Seoul and Incheon this past Tuesday evening marked their first tropical night for the month of September in almost 9 decades. According to relevant authorities, cities including Cheongju, Yeosu and Jeju also experienced a tropical night from late Monday to early Tuesday. Seoul, for its part, marked its 4th September tropical night since 1904, when the country began collecting such data. A tropical night indicates temperatures hovering at 25 degrees Celsius or above from 6 in the evening to 9 in the morning the following day. On the international front, a storm in southern Brazil has killed at least 21 people. According to authorities there, the casualty caused by this particular storm is the region's highest, with over 50 cities battered by heavy downpours and powerful winds. 15 of the 21 losses of lives took place in a single residence. Also, as of Monday evening, 1,650 people have been displaced. Now, pundits believe global warming is behind the tragic weather events worldwide in recent times. In Mongolia, Korean operatic pop tenor Lim Hyung-joo gave a performance this past Sunday following a mass by Pope Francis. On stage in Ulaanbaatar, Im sang 3 songs, including You Raise Me Up. The Pope also reportedly invited Im to the bishop's house in Ulaanbaatar a day after the performance that Im spontaneously sang Ave Maria in front of the Pope. Pope Francis has been in Mongolia since September 1st and is the first Pope in Catholic history to visit Mongolia.
Let's take a look at what's going on in the world now. In the United States, the chairman of the Proud Boys, a far-right militant organization, has been sentenced to 22 years in prison for his role in the January 6 Capitol riot. Enrique Tarrio was given the sentence on Tuesday over multiple charges, including seditious conspiracy. This for attempting to forcibly prevent the peaceful transfer of power from then-President Donald Trump to current President Joe Biden. The 39-year-old was handed the longest sentence out of anyone who has stood trial in relation to January 6. Prosecutors had sought 33 years. Although Tarrio was not in Washington during the riot, he was found to have helped coordinate the group's involvement. He is the last of 5 Proud Boys to be sentenced. Other members received prison sentences ranging from 10 to 18 years. Cuba says it has uncovered a human trafficking ring recruiting Cubans to fight for Russia in Ukraine. The Cuban Foreign Ministry said on Monday that the ring is operating both locally and in Russia and is trafficking Cubans to fight in the war zone with the Russian military. The ministry did not specify who is responsible, but said it is trying to dismantle the network. This comes after social media reports by Cubans in Russia's military said they were tricked into joining and were being mistreated after refusing to fight. Russian media had also previously reported that Cubans were joining the fight in Ukraine in exchange for the promise of Russian citizenship. Cuba and Russia are longtime allies, but Cuba has stressed that it is not part of the war in Ukraine. Russia has not commented. The United Nations has warned that harvesting sand from the ocean floor is causing irreversible damage to marine life. It said Tuesday that sand dredging ships vacuum up some 1 million truckloads of sand a day. This also removes from the ocean the microorganisms that feed local marine life, causing major environmental damage that is difficult to recover from. The warning follows findings released by a new platform that monitors dredging activities. Marine sand is mainly used in construction as it's better suited than other types of sand. It's not heavily regulated, but some countries, including Indonesia and Thailand, have banned marine sand exports. And finally, less than 3 weeks after winning the Women's Football World Cup, Spain's head coach Jorge Vilda has been fired. Announced on Tuesday, his sacking comes amid the ongoing fallout over a kiss scandal involving the president of the Spanish Football Federation. Vilda has also faced criticism since last year, after 15 players left the team and demanded his resignation over a number of issues, including inadequate training techniques. The 42-year-old has been replaced by a former player, Montse Tomé, the team's first female head coach. Tomé had been part of Vilda's coaching team since 2018. Matthew Ashley, Arirang News.
Good afternoon. It's early September and we don't usually expect to be under heat wave advisory around this time of year. However, much of the western regions is under a heat advisory with highs in the 30s this afternoon under sunny skies, except in East Coast regions with 5 to 20 millimeters of rainfall expected. Then Jeollado provinces and surrounding areas in Jeju Island will see passing rain this afternoon. Now, especially those in Jeollado need to be aware of heavy sudden rain. Meanwhile, coastal regions in Gyeongsang-do will be quite windy all day today with a wind advisory being in place. It's quite muggy in rain-affected regions with a high of 32 degrees in Gwangju and here in Seoul. Dazzling sun is shining down on the rest of the country with high UV rays, so sun protection items are a must, especially sunglasses to protect your eyes. Bright skies will stay with us as afternoon heat continues hovering in the 30s, but at least we won't struggle to get a good night's sleep due to the uncomfortable heat. Well, that's Korea for you, and here's a look at the international weather conditions.
That ends this edition of the Daily Report. Do stay tuned for Wednesday's edition of Issues and Insiders coming up next. Thank you for now.